McKee picked the lowest number in our random drawing and will begin the answering the question. We will then move to my left, their right, with each of the following questions and answers.
Okay, are we reading the question?
I'll read the question. The Charlottesville City School Board has moved from twice-a-month public meeting schedule to a once-a-month meeting with an earlier start time of 5 p.m. In what ways do you believe this change affects the community's ability and responsibility to partner with the city schools in the education of our children?
Good evening. First of all, thank you all for joining us today, and a special thanks to the League and the Dialogue, and especially Charlene and Deborah for their efforts in organizing this tonight. I apologize for my voice. I've had laryngitis all week, so I'm just happy I can talk. The decision to change the meeting time is essentially an experiment. The idea is to improve particularly staff, but also board efficiency by limiting it to one, albeit longer meeting per month. And so it's something that we're working with and seeing how it goes, and there certainly are some trade-offs. I think there are a couple of ways we could improve the process to continue to build partnerships and engagement. I think it's possible we could move the start time back to 5:30. We could shift the first public comment period later in the agenda so that it's right before the action items of the board meetings take place. But I think there's a wider reality here that we need to acknowledge, and that is that the public increasingly is engaging with the board virtually, whether it's through email, whether it's through watching it on Channel 10, or contacting us in other ways. And I think we should work with that. We should try ideas like streaming our meetings on the school division's website, maybe even setting up public comment boards to allow more engagement and more participation. Maybe thinking about how we can use social media to communicate with the community more generally. Beyond that, I think the board needs to continue to work to get out into the community, and in particular to talk to people that may not come to a meeting, whether we do it twice a month or once a month, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and we just may not engage virtually either. We need to be out there in the community, building those connections, and really listening to people and communicating, expressing both what the vision is, but also learning more about what the needs are and what the feelings of the people who we're supposed to be serving every day are.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. Mr. Latimer?
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Charlene, for hosting this event with the League of Women Voters and the Dialogue on Race. My name is Stephen Latimer, and I agree with Guian that having meetings once a month is a good idea because people know, it's easier for people to know when the meetings are if it's only held once a month on the third or fourth Thursday, I forget, but it's on a Thursday, I know that for a fact. And I would support pushing back the meetings all the way to 6 o'clock or even 7 o'clock because a lot of people literally do have 9 to 5 jobs, and these people could not be able to make a 5 o'clock meeting. That's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latimer. Ms. Laufer?
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Deborah and Charlene and everyone for coming out tonight. I think the more community input we get from the students, parents, and community members, the better job the board can do. And because the public comment section of the school board meeting is pretty short, it's a formal meeting, and it's not very inviting, many parents don't attend. I don't think it matters about one meeting or two. However, because input is critical, I want to set up an advisory committee. I envision this as a quarterly meeting with students, parents, and community members. The meeting could be rotated to different sections of the community, and this would be an opportunity in a less formal setting to hear people's needs and concerns and ideas. And these issues then can be brought back to the board. And I also agree with Guian, virtual is also a great idea. But I feel some people want to come and see face to face, and I'd be willing to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kadija?
Well, I also want to thank Deborah and Charlene very much for this, and I appreciate everybody who came out tonight to listen to what we all have to say. Obviously, one meeting a month cuts the meetings down in half, and cuts into dinner, which is one of my favorite times with my children, and I think for many folks, and that's been mentioned by some of the other people too here, that as parents, that's one of the few opportunities we have to actually sit down and interact with our children. So I would suggest thinking about a post-dinner time meeting. I understand one of the reasons that we moved to one meeting per month is also because administration has a tremendous amount of meetings to go to, and it makes it difficult for them to attend 2 meetings a month. And I wonder if we could reevaluate some of the time that they're spending in so many meetings, or that they could maybe re-examine it. Every institution, I think, needs to revisit that every once in a while and see if their meetings are really being productive in terms of what their objectives and goals are. Better still, and to something that's already been mentioned by Guian and by Amy, I think getting out in the community is really essential. The meetings are a little off-putting. They're not necessarily the sort of environment that most people feel comfortable standing up and being recorded in. So one thought I had was that we perhaps have a roving meeting that occurs the other time in the month, maybe 2 weeks later, and that we go into the different communities, perhaps not with the full entourage of administration, but maybe just 1 or 2 of them, just to be in the places where people live that are sending their children to our schools. Thank you.
Ms. Blount?
Thank you very much, Deborah and Charlene, for having this and allowing the community to come out and hear our views and to ask us questions. When this decision came before the board to move from 2 to 1 meeting, we vetted it very carefully and brought out a lot of the pros and cons for this. And one of those being how we would be able as a board to fully research issues, where we would have our informational session, have 2 weeks in between our meetings, be able to do our own research, be able to engage community that way, and then have our second meeting of the month to be able to then vote on that. We are finding ourselves in a situation where we, in order to allow the superintendent, enable the superintendent to proceed with what she needs to do, we are sometimes having to vote in that 1 meeting a month on issues where we normally would have had 2 weeks in between. We did discuss that this is open for consideration. We're trying it out. We're very adaptable. I think it was a majority vote to move to the 1 meeting a month, and we were aware of the time considerations. I know that having the community engagement piece, having that maybe be moved back a little bit later to allow more of the community to speak up, so that we don't have what we had last month's meeting or earlier this month, where somebody had to wait for 3 or so hours for our second community information session. So we're open to those concerns, but our priority is to make sure that our community is engaged. And we have discussed Ivana's recommendation for moving out into the community, and there is some concern around the taping issues to make sure that that can be televised.
Thank you, thank you. Ms. Neale?
I echo the thanks to our host and to everyone here for taking the time to come out. I agree with what's been said, that we need to continue to encourage community input. I like the fact that we invite public comment at the school board meetings. Public comments are received at the beginning of the meeting for people who can't stay, and at the end of the meeting for those who can't get there at 5. But I also think the board should likely consider rotating the location of the meetings to other schools besides CHS, so that we can see those facilities and so that other schools get a more direct opportunity for input. But I don't know that, has been echoed by everyone else here, I don't know that formal communications at the board meetings are the most important. I've attended the 5:30 meeting, and we did have them twice a month, and I don't remember them ever being particularly well attended outside of big groups coming to be recognized or people who are presenting. In general, really, I think that people come when there's something controversial, and we've been fortunate that that hasn't been the case most recently. School board meetings are probably not the best way to partner with the community. Personal phone numbers and email addresses for every board member are posted on the city school website. I think that's commendable and is very important to maintain. But I think we can do more. As others have echoed, I agree that we need to see our school board and the community more. think it's important to note that our teachers and our staff and administrators are busy teaching the children. So I certainly think it's incumbent on the school board members to get out to the neighborhoods, PTOs, and places of worship to talk with the community. I intend to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. McKeever?
Thank you, and welcome. Thank you to all, to the race, to the Dialogue on Race, and to the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. Very important to have us in the community by having these forums. So my opinion is that moving the meetings to once a month really provides us an opportunity and expectation to have the school board members in the community talking to parents and community groups and others during the time that they would be preparing and having another meeting. Having seen that city council's town halls be put on, I would want to incorporate town hall meetings into the school board schedule at elementary schools, churches, and public housing community centers. I think public comment is vital portion of the school board meeting, and I do think that 5 o'clock is too early to allow for meaningful comments. And it's just not reasonable necessarily to expect a parent or other community member to be available at 5. So I would want to see the school board in the community more, as has been echoed here, but specifically going to the sites where parents aren't routinely involved.
Thank you very much.